Hate me with the top of the hour debate.
Acknowledged that they rolled into a cemetery, took bodies out of graves as part of what they say is a search for Israeli hostages' remains. But as the Israeli military put out that statement, we were completing our investigation into the Israeli military's desecration of cemeteries. And what we found is 16 cemeteries across Gaza damaged or destroyed. I do want to warn our viewers that they may find some of these images disturbing.
In Gaza, even the dead cannot escape the indignities of war. More than a dozen cemeteries like this one in Jabalia, desecrated by the Israeli military. Gravestones destroyed, soil upturned, tread marks leaving little left for the living to honor their dead. This is that same graveyard before the war.
You ever plan on covering this? I did. I talked about it the other day.
1 month later, a series of tread marks can be seen on the northwestern edge. It is no exception. A CNN analysis of videos and satellite imagery found that 16 cemeteries have been damaged or destroyed by the Israeli military since it launched its ground offensive. As Israeli forces pushed deeper into Gaza, they crushed the graves of thousands of Palestinians between November and January. Janina Dill, co-director of Oxford University's Institute for Ethics, Law, and Armed Conflict, says destroying graveyards violates international law, except under very limited circumstances.
Cemeteries are not military objectives. They are, in fact, what international law would consider an object that is normally dedicated to civilian purposes, like places of worship generally. So this is protected from intentional attack. It can only be intentionally attacked or destroyed if it becomes a military objective.
In some cases, like this cemetery in the Shujaiya refugee camp, Israeli bulldozers turned cemeteries into military outposts, parking armored vehicles behind freshly raised berms. The damage is often deliberate and progressive. Over 2 weeks into
they aren't just blowing up cemeteries, they're fucking exhuming bodies too. Who knows what they're doing with the bodies after they're exhumed? I have no idea. Like, what purpose? I guess they're saying they're doing it to determine if they're hostages.
The military bulldozed more and more of this cemetery.
Bro, this is literally like, dude. This is like, God. Genocide is so gross because it's, I mean, obviously, but like the American genocide specifically of indigenous population is so gross that we even make jokes about it because it's so far in the past, right? Where like the meme of it is like, oh, this place is built on an Indian burial ground is like the thing that people say sometimes. Except it's not a joke. Like, this is how it happens, and this is how it is justified when it's happening in the time frame that it's happening. And then 100 to 200 years later, we make jokes about it.
Of Khan Yunis, building defensive fortifications. CNN witnessed firsthand the results of Israel's bulldozing of graveyards while embedded with Israeli forces last week. The armored personnel carrier CNN was traveling in drove right through this cemetery in Al-Burej on a freshly bulldozed dirt road. And then there's this. Tombs opened at a cemetery in Khan Yunis this week, bodies removed from their graves. In a statement, the Israeli military acknowledged exhuming bodies from the cemetery as part of its search for the bodies of Israeli hostages. An IDF spokesman could not account for the damage to the 16 cemeteries identified by CNN, but said that in some cases there is no other choice, providing this photo of what it says is a Hamas rocket launcher.
Oh, dude, of course. Of course. Bro, there's no other choice, brother. Dude, it's crazy. Always and forever. Always and forever, baby. Oh, dude, do we have to blow this up? Dude, well, guess what? Hamas.
At a cemetery in Gaza. CNN could not independently verify
Yeah, I can't wait for the oh yeah, notice CNN doesn't have footage of the tanks going over the graves. IDF stopped that from getting out 100%. Yeah. Remember everybody, the IDF actually vets all the footage that they're allowed to post. So just remember that this was like okayed. At least the footage part was okayed by the IDF. Here's the Intercept reporting on it. CNN runs Gaza coverage past Jerusalem team operating under the shadow of IDF censor.
By where it was taken.
CNN has openly admitted that they have agreed to the IDF censoring their footage, by the way.
Spokesman could not account for the military posts over graveyards, but said we have a serious...
I cannot believe that someone in the chat just said, oh, well, CNN could not independently verify it, but they posted it without evidence, without verification anyway. Yeah, the fact that they even mentioned that CNN could not independently verify this is a change of pace. You understand that? That is crazy to me. That is the bare minimum expectation that we have at this point. And the fact that they still said it, at least, instead of just reporting it as is, whether it be the fucking decapitated baby story or whatever the fuck, I almost called Joe Biden Donald Trump, Joe Biden was going along with. I'm glad that it's like, if I'm going to look for a silver lining here, this is a tone shift.
Its obligation to the respect of the dead, and there is no policy to create military posts out of graveyards. In at least one case, the Israeli military appears to have taken pains to maneuver around a graveyard. The Deir el-Balah War Cemetery, which holds the remains of many Christian and Jewish soldiers from World War I, left intact, despite devastation all around.
Wow. Wow. That's interesting. Wow, that's so strange. So they do have a way to maneuver around the cemeteries. Wow. Yeah, this definitely makes it seem like they are deliberately doing it to the other cemeteries.
At the Al-Tufa Cemetery, a very different picture. Residents say bodies were uprooted by Israeli...
Just want to point something out here, by the way. If you want to understand, when I talk about harm reduction, and I mean this in all sincerity, October 7 included, okay, when you look at Israel's actions versus the actions of Hamas, you arrive at things like this. This cemetery that has Jewish dead veterans under Hamas control, never desecrated. Very different than the way that the Palestinian cemeteries have been treated under Jewish control, under Israeli control now. Very interesting. There are Jewish and Christian people that died in World War I in that cemetery. Why did they not look at these graves as well to see if there were maybe some Israeli hostages in there? Yeah. Not just undamaged, but taken care of. Exactly. It's the same shit behind. Maybe because the IDF didn't think that there would be Israeli hostages in there since it's from World War I. Brother, do you really think that the IDF thinks that there's really Israeli hostages in the Palestinian cemeteries? Or do you think they're doing that specifically because they want to flex? Like, how do you still lap up this propaganda? How many Palestinians need to be fucking massacred ruthlessly for you to go, yeah, maybe their goal isn't actually, I don't know, saving the fucking Israeli kidnapped victims, okay? You got to be probably, I was just saying, bro, I'm on your side, damn. Well, it's ridiculous, dude. It's a ridiculous thing to say. No, you're failing to see the actual point. They're doing this as a flex.
At the Al Tufa cemetery, a very different picture. Residents say bodies were uprooted by Israeli bulldozers.
We're currently retrieving the corpses of the martyrs that are present in the cemetery. The occupation forces have run over most of them with their bulldozers, and we've only identified a small number of corpses and martyrs. As for the rest, their identities remain unknown.
South Africa cited Israel's destruction of cemeteries as part of its case, arguing Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. Israel denies the allegation, but experts say cemetery destruction could be evidence of Israel's intent.
There's huge symbolic meaning to the notion that not even the dead are left in peace. It suggests a disrespect towards the kind of spiritual life of your enemy, their cultural property and heritage. It's an evidence of an animus against your enemy that is unhelpful in this context.
The Israeli military is still desecrating graves in Gaza. At the Han Yunis cemetery, where the military dug up bodies this week, the damage is extensive and all too familiar. Tombs destroyed, shrouded bodies sticking out of the soil, the dead roused from their final rest.
And the Israeli military pointed to Hamas using some of these cemeteries for military purposes to justify what we've documented here. But
yeah, that's it, bro. It's just Hamas, bro. You don't understand. Hamas. They're in the cemeteries, bro. I don't know, man. Is there anyone in the chat that still defends Israel? Like, I don't know. I feel like everyone left by this point. They've already been taking like victory laps about how anti-Semitic they perceive I am for openly covering this shit. But like, if there is one who's like at least a little bit, I don't know, in the margins or something, like, how do you see something like this and continue going, nah? Israelis don't see it. That's true. But I was talking about the Hasbara Malders in here. You know what I mean? Also ironic to say Israelis don't see it when you yourself are Israeli. I mean, look, Tal is Israeli. There's a growing movement, I think, of Israeli leftists who are anti-apartheid, who are doing activism on the streets. I want to hear from the people that still defend Israel's actions, though. I mean, our media shows the IDF in a good light. That's the part I don't understand. Like, it's got to be received in a positive way. I suspect when you know, all the TikToks come out, right? Like, it's got to be received in a positive way when like the TikToks come out of like, you know, IDF dudes just like fucking joyfully and in glee celebrating like blowing up another hospital or some shit. Some people freak out when you mention Israeli leftists. No, people like to make jokes about how fucking right-wing Israel is, so they understandably are frustrated. I mean, yeah, there's another thing that I didn't even cover, but the stealing of Palestinian antiquities. Eli Escocido, the director of the Israeli Antiquities Authority, shares a video documenting the theft of archaeological artifacts from Gaza, which they took to the Knesset, by the way. Bro, this is just rape and pillage. Cultural heritage sites in Gaza have been deliberately targeted, and in the West Bank, Israeli occupation army and settlers systematically raiding archaeological sites. Yeah, they've been looting. They haven't stopped looting. They like break. There's videos. There are videos of Israeli occupying forces in Gaza, like seizing millions of dollars in cash, shekels, millions of shekels. Like, what are we doing? Are you serious? You can't do that. That's just, you're openly showing to the world that you're stealing this shit. Anyway. Here, this is the one, yeah. The Israeli army announces the seizure of 20 million shekels from the Gaza Strip since the outbreak of the aggression and the transfer of this money to treasuries of the Israeli state. Isn't stealing pretty common in conflict, though? Yeah, it's fucking gross and unacceptable. What do you mean? You think I find it fine when America does it? No. I have criticized America just as much, if not more. I have the same exact smoke. After all, I am Mr. America Deserved 9/11, for those of you who do not know. So nobody can get me on that either, which is precisely the reason why they just stopped trying to catch the hypocrisy in the situation, okay? And now have just decided that they themselves are just pro-America too. New U.S. Britain struck missile systems and launchers, air defense systems, radars, and deeply buried weapons storage facilities per CENTCOM. Our aim remains to de-escalate tensions and restore stability in the Red Sea. But let us reiterate our warning to Houthi leadership per the statement. We will not hesitate to defend the lives and free flow of commerce in one of the world's most critical waterways. Nice. America is still engaging in what is known as a de-escalatory act of certainly non-vindictive, de-escalatory act of bombing.